All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children, men will die for their wives and children, and God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts: the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Insidious Subversion. Satan's Hegelian dialectic siege machinery of cultural Marxist positional war, written by Conrad Riker. Available now, links in description. Men are not broken. Fix the world that weaponized kindness, laughed at their strength, and called it progress. I once watched a man get thrown out of a coffee shop for refusing to help a woman carry her groceries to her car. Not because he was rude, no. He politely said he had somewhere to be, but because he failed her little morality test disguised as kindness. She called him cold, selfish. A real man these days, dripping with sarcasm like spoiled honey. And the barista, another woman, nodded in silent agreement. I sat there sipping my black coffee, thinking, this is not about groceries, this is about control. The truth is, women don't test men for virtue, they test for utility. And if you don't pass, you're not kind, you're disposable. You've been conditioned since childhood to believe that helping strangers, especially women, is noble. But noble for whom, not for you. You're the knight charging into the dragon's lair to rescue a damsel who's already burned down 3 villages. The 2023 YouGov study shows 78% of women demand men be more empathetic, while only 34% of men agree. That asymmetry isn't a gap, it's a trap. It's emotional conscription. And every time you jump because a woman asks, you're reinforcing the gynocentric dictatorship that runs this world like a Ponzi scheme built on male guilt. They say heteronormativity is oppressive. Warner and his queer theory acolytes shriek it from university podiums like castrated eunuchs guarding a harem, but nature doesn't care about their pronouns. You don't find non-binary wolves in the forest or gender-fluid lions in the Serengeti. You find predators and prey, males and females, XX and XY, immutable, unapologetic, real. Yet we're told to believe that 2.5% of Gen Z is non-binary, a statistical explosion from less than 0.1% in 2000 more than the entire population of ancient Sparta, now somehow trapped in TikTok dysphoria. Jazz Jennings, a boy-turned-medical spectacle, paraded as a trans icon while pediatric endocrinologists destroy healthy bodies with cross-sex hormones before puberty even finishes. The suicide rate for transgender individuals after transition 5 times higher than the general population. Den et al. 211, peer-reviewed, unignorable. But the cult of gender ideology doesn't care about data. It cares about power. It's Nietzsche's will to power dressed up as liberation. A Gnostic rebellion against creation itself, whispering, I am whatever I say I am, while God said male and female I created them. You want transcendental truth. Here it is. A world without nature is a world without truth. And without truth, there is no good, no beauty, no you. I once saw a woman film her date at a comedy club, waiting for him to laugh at the most absurd joke. When he didn't, she rolled her eyes and said, "You're so serious." That's the laugh test. A social landmine designed to expose emotional instability in men. If you laugh too much, you're a clown. If you don't laugh, you're rigid. But if you master the straight face, the Spartan stare, the Aurelian calm, you threaten her control. Women use laughter like primates use grooming, to bond, to exclude, to dominate. DeWild's chimpanzee studies show the alpha doesn't laugh on cue, he allows it. Same with men. Louis C.K. wasn't ruined because he was a bad comedian. He was ruined because he didn't perform emotional repentance on command. Society wants men to either be clowns or corpses, but the warrior poet, Achilles weeping over Patroclus, David crying out to God, Christ sweating blood in Gethsemane, feels deeply and acts rightly. Not the beta poet weeping into his soy latte, begging for a date. Real emotion is not exhibitionism, it's sovereignty. And the Harvard Business Review 222 confirms it. Men who display less emotional reactivity are 40% more likely to be promoted. Because power doesn't whine, it decides. They claim men are repressed as if Shakespeare never wrote Hamlet, as if Homer never sang of Achilles' rage. You're not repressed. You're suppressed by a system that pathologizes your strength, calls stoicism toxic, and then wonders why men are dying. 80% of suicides are men, WHO 2023. Not because they don't feel, but because they feel too much, and society offers them therapy ads instead of honor. The UK's It's OK to Talk campaign spends millions telling men to open up, while family courts rip fathers from children on false allegations, while police arrest men for disagreeing online, while women abort 92% of Down syndrome fetuses, CDC 2022, like defective products. You think that's about choice? No, it's about power. And the real lie, that men need to be more emotional. The truth, men need to be more true. Feel like Marcus Aurelius, speak like Solon, act like Leonidas. Reject the soft tyranny of emotional exhibitionism. The red pill isn't just about dating, it's about awakening to the biological realities, the historical lies, the spiritual rot. This book will not coddle you, it will free you. The Mask of Altruism, deconstructing female-centric morality traps. Every man is a prisoner, but only the wise are aware of it. Schopenhauer saw the cage before the bars were even welded shut. I learned it in the back seat of a Honda Civic, age 23, when a woman I barely knew, let's call her Chloe, because she's a biblical archetype. Not a person burst into tears because I refused to stop and help a stranded motorist on I-95. You're so cold, she sobbed, mascara like war paint smeared down her cheeks. Men like you are why the world is broken. That moment wasn't about the stranded motorist. It wasn't even about me. It was a test, as calibrated and ancient as Eve offering the fruit. Will you sacrifice yourself to soothe her emotional economy? I failed, not because I lacked empathy, but because I lacked usefulness. And that's the trap. The altruism mask women wear like a saintly veil while wielding it as a cudgel. The 2017 Me Too movement wasn't about justice. It was a cultural stress test revealing how easily female victimhood narratives become siege engines. Take Aziz Ansari, a man accused of awkward sex, not assault, not coercion, but enthusiasm mismatch, and yet the media crucified him like Caligula. Or revisit Kobe Bryant's 2003 case, charges dropped, accuser later admitted lying under oath, and yet today Google still autofills Kobe Bryant rape before Kobe Bryant Lakers. Why? Because the narrative of female innocence and male predation is the foundational lie of gynocentric morality, a dialectic weaponized by cultural Marxists to pathologize male sovereignty. These aren't isolated incidents. They're tactics in a broader positional war where virtue is inverted into vulnerability, and every man who opens his wallet, his time, or his silence becomes a conscript in a feminist infantry. Let's talk about the data, because facts are bullets in the war against delusion. A 2023 YouGov study revealed that 78% of women believe men should be more empathetic, while only 34% of men agree. That's not a gap, it's a chasm engineered by design. This asymmetry isn't accidental, it's evolutionary. Psychologist Ann Campbell's staying alive hypothesis proves what every red-pilled man already knows. Women evolved not for frontal combat, but for indirect aggression, gossip, ostracism. emotional blackmail, the guerrilla warfare of social manipulation. While men bled on battlefields, women weaponized tears to control resources, alliances, and male behavior. Fast forward to 2024, and this machinery is industrialized. Feminism reframes male altruism as toxic masculinity the moment it doesn't serve female interest. Donate to charity, nice guy, protect your boundaries. Emotionally stunted. But when women demand empathy, it's framed as moral superiority. It's bait and switch on a civilizational scale. You're conditioned to believe kindness is unconditional, only to be punished when it's unprofitable to her. Look at family courts. 70% of custody battles award primary custody to mothers, even in cases of proven abuse or neglect. Men pay child support to women who block visitation. Courts call it enforcement, but it's legalized cuckoldry, and when men resist, they're arrested for commenting online, for protesting, for existing too loudly. The state doesn't protect fathers, it protects the matriarchal fiction. Suicide rates. Men die by suicide 3.5 pecs more than women, yet 80% of mental health funding targets women. Why? Because the system rewards female fragility while punishing male resilience. You're not a man. You're a resource unit to be bled dry. Hollywood is the propaganda arm of this insidious dialectic. Disney's Frozen doesn't teach sisterhood. It teaches that female emotion is apocalyptic, let it go, and must be appeased by male submission. Wonder Woman? A goddess who pathologizes male restraint as fear, while romanticizing female recklessness as courage. These aren't stories. They're psychic implants drilled into boys from infancy. I once watched a father apologize to his 8-year-old daughter for not buying her a 100 backpack. She stood there, arms crossed, lip quivering. "You don't love me." Where did she learn that script? From 1,000 princess movies where men grovel for female approval. And what's the antidote? Not cynicism, but virtue as strength. The Stoics and Spartans didn't praise empathy, they praised self-mastery. Epictetus didn't say be kind, he said endure. Leonidas didn't ask permission at Thermopylae, he held the line. True kindness isn't unconditional surrender, it's disciplined, context-aware, reciprocal. When a woman asks you to help a stranger, say, "Can you change a tire?" she's not testing your compassion, she's testing your utility. The red pill is flooded with stories. Men refusing to assist women's emergencies only to be ghosted, shamed, or accused of lacking character. One user described a woman staging a flat tire to see if he'd help. When he did, she dumped him for being too easy. When men catch on, they're labeled MGTOW or incel, labels designed to isolate and demonize. But David Buss's research on female hypergamy confirms what every man senses. Women don't seek kindness, they seek status, resources, and genetic fitness. Altruism is just another commodity in their mate selection matrix. Schopenhauer nailed it. Compassion is the antechamber of slavery. The weak don't appeal to justice, they weaponize suffering to enslave the strong. Gynocentric ethics don't elevate morality, they invert natural hierarchy. A Navy SEAL doesn't cry during extraction, he adapts. A CEO doesn't apologize for layoffs, he optimizes. Yet in the feminist cosmos, emotional display is virtue, and self-interest is sin. This isn't morality, it's emotional parasitism. I once saw a man at a gas station give his last 20 to a woman who claimed her car broke down. She drove off in a BMW. That's not kindness, that's prey selection. The stranger test is a proxy for mate selection. Women subconsciously grade men on their willingness to bleed for strangers, because if you'll sacrifice for a nobody, you'll sacrifice for her. But when the divorce hits, the alimony demands, the kids are weaponized, the same woman who praised your kindness will eviscerate you in court. The lesson? True virtue isn't soft, it's hard. It's the blacksmith's anvil, not the doormat. Reject the altruism trap, master your domain, and when the next Chloe cries because you won't play martyr, smile, hand her a tissue and say, suffering is not a currency. And I'm not your bank. I've watched this charade metastasize for years, first as a whisper in university basements, then a shout in elementary classrooms. And now a full-blown epidemic of self-mutilating absurdity paraded as progress. But let's not kid ourselves, this isn't about liberation, it's about destruction. The same ideological vandals who reduced Me Too to a weaponized sob fest, who pathologize male strength and fetishize female fragility, are now carving up children with scalpels and pronouns in service of a satanic dialectic where truth is inverted, nature is denied, and the weak are taught to believe their confusion is power. If we don't confront this now with logic, courage, and unapologetic clarity, we won't be raising a generation of men and women, just a warehouse of gender-confused casualties waiting to collapse under the weight of their own manufactured identities. The gender delusion, deconstructing the non-binary lie and the death of nature. God made man, man makes gender, said no rational person ever, yet here we stand in 2025, watching teenage girls in Canada choose pronouns like they're picking ice cream flavors at a Ben & Jerry's staff party. I recently spoke with a school teacher in Alberta who told me her grade 7 class had 28 students and 32 gender identities. 32. That's not diversity, that's a math problem wrapped in a psychiatric emergency. The school was proudly displaying a gender unicorn poster, like it was the Magna Carta of enlightenment, when in fact it's the intellectual offspring of a drunken one-night stand between Jacques Derrida and a gender studies undergrad who failed logic. These aren't children discovering themselves, they're victims of a state-sponsored gaslighting campaign where biology is branded as problematic and chromosomes are deemed oppressive by people who couldn't spell mitochondria if their lives depended on it. Let's cut through the fog. You are either XX or XY. That's it. No in between. No they them for your gonads. You don't get to opt out of nature because Tumblr told you that masculinity is toxic and your aura is fluid. David Clancy, a geneticist at the University of Liverpool, has stated plainly that sex is binary and genetically fixed. Yet, we're expected to believe that a 13-year-old girl with acne and a Tumblr blog has deeper insight into metaphysical anthropology than every biologist since Mendel. Dr. Louise Perry, an endocrinologist and critic of gender ideology, has exposed how hormone blockers and cross-sex hormones in children are being administered not based on clinical evidence, but on ideological dogma, pushed by activists who treat medicine like a drag show and children like political props. The Hippocratic Oath, laughed out of the clinic. The medical establishment has traded do no harm for affirm at all costs, turning pediatricians into ideological enforcers and parents into guilt-ridden accomplices in the mutilation of their own kids. Consider Jazz Jennings, the public face of the transgender movement, raised from childhood by her parents and amplified by media narratives to embrace the belief that her identity didn't match her biology. Now in her early 20s, she has publicly expressed regret over her medical transition and faces ongoing psychological distress, yet continues to be upheld as a triumph. Her situation is not unique. It reflects a broader pattern. A long-term Swedish study led by Dean in 2011 tracked 324 transgender people after medical transition and revealed that their risk of suicide was 5 times greater than that of the general population. Even after receiving surgeries, hormone treatments, social recognition, and widespread fame, these individuals remain drastically more vulnerable to self-destruction. This goes beyond medicine, it borders on ideological harm. Still, the push for gender affirmation intensifies, fueled by parental anxiety, celebrity influence, and institutional timidity as schools, clinics, and media outlets hesitate to challenge emotionally charged claims made by adolescents online. Freud, that old cigar-chomping truth-teller, once described the narcissism of small differences, how humans fracture into warring tribes over microscopic distinctions to mask deeper insecurities. Today, we see this in the explosion of gender micro-identities: demigirl, neutra, agender, bigender, genderflux, you name it. It's tribalism masquerading as liberation. The more fragmented we become, the easier we are to control. Divide et impera. The left knows this. They don't want unity. They want atomized individuals screaming into voids, too busy curating their pronouns to notice who's looting the treasury. This isn't identity affirmation, it's identity annihilation disguised as empowerment. Nietzsche saw it coming. When God is dead, man doesn't become free, he becomes a nihilistic tyrant, inventing himself ex nihilo to fill the void. That's what gender as a spectrum really means. Not liberation, but the total collapse of essence into will to power. You are no longer a man or woman, you're a walking act of defiance against nature itself. And let's talk about history, because those who ignore it are doomed to be gelded by it. In 18th century Italy, the castrati were boys surgically mutilated before puberty so they could sing soprano in churches and opera houses. The state and church sanctioned it. Parents were complicit, the culture celebrated it. Sound familiar? Today's gender-affirming care is the castrati complex reborn, boys chemically and surgically neutered so they can perform in the theater of woke identity. The only difference? Back then, at least they could hit high C. Today, these kids can't even pass high school math. We are not fighting science, we are fighting a religious cult dressed in lab coats. The Genesis account, male and female he created them, isn't just scripture, it's the foundation of biological realism. To deny it is to launch a Gnostic rebellion against creation itself, claiming that man can improve on nature through sheer will, but nature doesn't negotiate. You can't talk your way out of gravity, and you can't hormone your way out of biology. When Warner, yes, Judith Warner, claims heteronormativity is oppressive, what she's really saying is that reality is oppressive. And that's the core of cultural Marxism, not reform, but the total inversion of truth, goodness, and beauty. The numbers don't lie. CDC data from 2023 shows 2.5% of Gen Z identifies as non-binary. That's not a natural awakening. It's a spread, like a virus, and the carrier, social media. TikTok's algorithm, built by engineers who ignore human cost, pushes emotionally fragile teens, particularly girls, into gender euphoria videos, like a drug pusher finding fresh customers. Research reveals 90% of teens pursuing gender transition are female, a trend that demands scrutiny, not celebration. Why do girls dominate these numbers? Because they're more emotionally open, more easily influenced by peers, and more inclined to look for belonging in collective labels. This isn't accidental, it's exploitation. I'll leave you with this. Aquinas taught that everything has a telos, a purpose. An acorn becomes an oak, a calf becomes a bull, a boy becomes a man. To deny that is not progress, it's perversion. The left doesn't want equality, they want destruction. They don't want inclusion, they want subversion. And they are using your children as cannon fodder in a war against nature, truth, and God. The remedy, the trivium. Teach your sons logic. Gender is binary. Teach rhetoric. Expose the emotional manipulation. Teach grammar. Destroy the lies with precise language. Truth is the ultimate weapon. Wield it. I saw this play out in my own life years ago, standing silent at a party while a woman performed her little comedy routine, eyes darting, waiting for me to chuckle like a trained seal. When I didn't, she turned to her friends and whispered, "He's got anger issues." That moment wasn't about humor, it was a tribunal. And I realized then, modern society has turned laughter into a loyalty test, a litmus for male submission. The expectation isn't joy, it's yielding and the penalty for defiance, not just social exile, but moral indictment. The laughter trap, emotional control as the measure of masculine sovereignty. He who laughs last, laughs longest, unless he's a man, then he's probably already been accused of repressed trauma. Last year, a woman in a London bar filmed a man refusing to laugh at her hilarious impression of a duck. She uploaded it to TikTok with the caption, "Watch this, incel try not to crack, zero emotional regulation." Not mate material, over 2 million views, comments, "Men like this become mass shooters." Emotionally stunted, needs therapy, all because he didn't laugh on command, let that settle. A man is now publicly pathologized, socially ostracized, and emotionally blacklisted, not for violence, not for cruelty, not for betrayal, but for maintaining composure. This isn't just absurd, it's a cultural ambush. The laughter trap isn't about humor, it's about control. It's the newest tool in the feminist toolkit disguised as playfulness, used to demand emotional compliance and undermine masculine autonomy. And if you think this is rare, consider Louis C.K., once celebrated as a fearless comic, now a pariah, not because he assaulted anyone, but because women said he joked while masturbating in front of them. Never mind consent, never mind context. The real offense was that he was laughing, or expected others to, while expressing a private moment of male self-possession. In the eyes of the gynocentric court, laughter from a man in a sexually charged context isn't humor, it's menace and silence. That's repression. Either way, you lose. The truth is, women don't use laughter to bond, they use it to rank. Evolutionary biology confirms it. Female primates, from baboons to office workers, deploy laughter as a social scalpel, slicing out males who fail to mirror their emotional tone. Franz de Waal's studies on chimpanzee hierarchies show that females form coalitions and use vocalizations, including forced, high-pitched giggles, to isolate and punish males who don't submit to group affective norms. Translate that to modern life. A woman at a party tells a politically charged joke. You don't laugh? Suddenly, the room cools, eyes dart. The social contract is breached. You're not emotionally available, you're cold. You're dangerous. Meanwhile, the beta orbiters in the corner are cackling like hyenas at nothing, proving their loyalty to the emotional herd. Harvard Business Review 2022 found men who display less emotional reactivity are 40% more likely to be promoted. Yet in dating markets, they're deemed unattractive or emotionally detached. Do you see the trap? In work, emotional control is power. In relationships, it's punished as pathology. This isn't coincidence, it's asymmetric warfare. The leftist feminist complex has engineered a world where male strength is criminalized in private while being exploited in public. They want your productivity, but hate your presence. They need your stability, but fear your sovereignty. Look at Joker, 2019, a film the elite despised not because it was violent, but because it named the game. Arthur Fleck, a man broken by a system that mocks him until he stops laughing, then punishes him for not laughing anymore. The establishment praised films like Parasite, which glorify envy and class murder, but Joker, which shows a man driven to madness by relentless social ridicule, was condemned as dangerous. Why? Because it exposed the mechanism. Society infantilizes men, denies them dignity, mocks their pain, and then pathologizes their restraint. When a man finally breaks, they say, "See? Toxic masculinity." No, toxic femininity laughed him into the abyss. Feminists scream about male rage, but they're the ones who weaponize shame, deploy sarcasm like cluster munitions, and use tears as tactical nukes in divorce court. Dr. John Gray was right. Men are from Mars, women from Venus. But Venus in the modern era has turned into a gas giant of emotional manipulation. Women don't seek partners, they seek emotional servants who laugh on cue, cry on schedule, and apologize for existing. The Andrew Tate laugh test meme, where women provoke men with absurd claims like men invented gravity to oppress women, isn't just comedy, it's a fitness assessment. They're not testing humor, they're testing submission. If you laugh, you're complicit. If you argue, you're angry. If you stay silent, you're emotionally stunted. The only winning move is not to play, but that's exactly what they can't tolerate. I once watched a divorce hearing where a wife told the judge her husband was emotionally abusive because he didn't react when she told him she was sleeping with her yoga instructor. His crime? He sipped his coffee, said okay, and kept reading. The judge awarded her 70% of assets. Why? Because in the feminist legal paradigm, emotional non-reactivity in men is presumed to be repression, while female hysteria is sanctified as trauma. This is cultural Marxism in action. Invert all values, punish strength, reward weakness. But let's be clear, emotional control isn't repression, it's sovereignty. Schopenhauer knew this. The laugh arises when expectation is shattered. But the modern man must master this law, not be its victim. When a woman mocks you, she's testing whether your internal world depends on her approval. If you flinch, you've surrendered. If you smile genuinely, calmly, without bitterness, you've won. That's not repression, that's transcendence. The straight face isn't a lack of feeling, it's the presence of will. It's the face of Marcus Aurelius hearing of betrayal, of Churchill hearing of bombing, of a father hearing his child is sick, calm because feeling is mastered, not mastered by feeling. The left's entire project depends on breaking male composure. Why? Because a man who doesn't react can't be controlled. No outrage, no divorce, no therapy scam, no mental health crisis narrative. That's why they pathologize stoicism, glorify female emotional volatility, and demand men open up, meaning break down. But every red-pilled man knows the truth. The strongest men aren't the ones crying on podcasts. They're the ones standing silent in the storm, unshaken. Train emotional alchemy, turn provocation into power, mockery into momentum, silence into strength. When a woman tries the laugh test, don't play, don't engage. Smile like you know something she doesn't because you do. You know that laughter forced is slavery. Laughter withheld is freedom. You know that the measure of a man isn't how he feels, but how he holds himself when everything demands he break. That's not repression, that's kingship. And no amount of feminist screeching will ever take that from you, unless you hand it over by laughing when they tell you to. I've seen the ads men sobbing on park benches, urged by soothing voices to reach out, to break the silence, as if our silence were the disease and not the symptom of a civilization that has outsourced its soul to therapists, bureaucrats, and women who want providers with the emotional pliability of a golden retriever. But I didn't break the silence for therapy. I broke it here on the page in defiance, with logic and fire, because the real war isn't against repression, it's against replacement. The slow, insidious substitution of male strength with performative fragility, all under the banner of mental health. And now let us dissect the lie at the heart of the suicide narrative, the one that paints men as emotionally stunted victims of patriarchy, when in truth, we are the last keepers of silent duty in a world gone hysterical. The lie of the suppressed male, how feminism invented male emotional repression. 80% of suicides are men, says the World Health Organization 2023, not because we're emotionally repressed, but because we're emotionally responsible. We don't cry in supermarkets over expired yogurt. We don't post sobbing selfies after a bad hair day. We die, quietly, alone. While women who statistically report higher levels of anxiety, depression, and mental health diagnoses live because they are designed to offload pain onto others. Like emotional debt collectors with perfectly contoured brows. You think I'm exaggerating? Look at the UK's It's OK to Talk campaign. 14 million of taxpayer-funded propaganda telling men to open up, while simultaneously, women on dating apps swipe left on any man who admits he's in therapy. Too intense, they say, too sensitive. Translation, not a rock, not a fortress, not a provider. You are useless to me. The state preaches vulnerability while the market, the real test of value, punishes it. This isn't enlightenment. This is Hegelian dialectics in action. Create a problem, male silence, blame men for it, then sell them the solution. Therapeutic confessionals, all while ensuring the solution fails in the real world of mating and meaning. I once watched a boy, bright, energetic, 7 years old, get dragged to the principal's office for excessive noise and disruption. During recess, his crime: running, jumping, yelling, being a boy. Meanwhile, a girl in the same class was praised for her empathetic storytelling after whispering about her doll's trust issues. This isn't education. This is gender-based behavioral engineering. Boys are now diagnosed with ADHD at 3 times the rate of girls, not because they're broken, but because our schools have become feminized temples of stillness, where boys are medicated for failing to imitate emotionally expressive girls. Feminists scream about toxic masculinity, but what's truly toxic is redefining stoicism, duty and restraint, virtues that built cathedrals, won wars, and launched rockets as pathologies. Achilles wept openly over Patroclus, yet stormed battle the next day. Hamlet soliloquized like a mad poet, yet struck when the moment came. David wrote psalms soaked in grief, then slew Goliath with a sling. The Western canon doesn't suppress male emotion. It sublimates it. It transforms sorrow into strength, grief into glory, But today's feminist ideologues don't want sublimation, they want subjugation. They want men to cry in circles, journal their trauma, and then go home to find their wives have already drained their bank accounts in divorce court, where men lose custody 80% of the time, despite equal or better parenting records. And now comes Pixar's Inside Out 2, a full-spectrum emotional invasion of boyhood. The new emotion, anxiety, female-voiced, female-dominated, targeting preteen boys to internalize fear, doubt, and emotional fragility as normal. This is not entertainment. This is psychological colonization. While girls are taught to express every flicker of feeling, boys are being groomed to see their natural courage as a flaw. The feminist myth that society suppresses male emotion is a lie so brazen it borders on demonic. Name one Shakespearean hero who wasn't emotionally deep. Name one Spartan father who didn't weep at his son's departure. Name one medieval knight who didn't write love poems to his lady, the truth. Western civilization celebrated male emotion when it served greatness. But today, emotion is weaponized not to inspire, but to infantilize. The emotional expression dogma is soft tyranny, the therapeutic state demanding men confess, share, and submit, all while women, who initiate 70% of divorces and abort 93% of unwanted pregnancies, face no such demands. They can rage, lie, cheat, abandon, yet men are told to work on their communication. I'll tell you what real emotion looks like. Christ in Gethsemane, sweating blood, trembling, crying out, "My soul is sorrowful even unto death." Not a whimper, not a therapy session, but agony, raw, divine, unbearable, followed by action. He didn't journal, he didn't form a support group, he carried the cross. That is the model. The warrior poet, the man who feels everything, says little and does what must be done. Not the sensitive guy who cries during rom-coms and gets dumped for being needy. The feminist narrative demands men be emotionally expressive on her terms. But when a man expresses anger at injustice, grief at betrayal, or sorrow at abandonment, he's labeled toxic, threatening, or unstable. The double bind is clear: express emotion and be rejected, repress it and be pathologized. The goal isn't mental health, it's control, and the remedy: reject both repression and exhibitionism. Feel deeply, speak with purpose, act with honor. Restore the warrior poet, or die silent, another statistic in the feminist ledger of male disposability. You think kindness is weakness? Look at the ruins of family courts where fathers are stripped of children for failing to pay alimony to women who laughed as they committed adultery. 58% of divorces initiated by women, and 70% of false domestic violence claims, Hoyle 2009. Stark 2021, yet you're told you must be more empathetic. You're not broken, chump, you were designed to survive. And while the feminist priestess sips her latte, preaching emotional openness, she swipes left on the sensitive poet and right on the billionaire who never says "I love you." That's not hypocrisy, that's evolutionary strategy. Women don't want vulnerability, they want victory. And you've been trained to hand it to them on a silver platter, like some sacrificial ox at the altar of genocracy. I once watched a man cry in a therapy circle, trembling as he confessed his fear of abandonment. Noble? Sure. But 2 weeks later, he was dumped. "You're too intense," she said. Meanwhile, Andrew Tate gets arrested for human trafficking after teaching men to make money, stay fit, and ignore emotional blackmail, and the media howls like banshees. Let's be real, the state doesn't fear traffickers. It fears men who won't kneel, men who won't apologize for winning. In 2023, 80% of suicides were men, not because we're repressed, but because we're exhausted from carrying the world while being told we're the problem. The same culture that pathologizes male stoicism also mocks male suffering. They want you soft when it serves them, silent when it doesn't, and dead when you resist. But you're awake now. You see the Matrix. The non-binary cult preaching identity as a do-it-yourself project. While 91% of detransitioners cite regret, Littman, 2021, the church is turned into LGBTQ plus safe spaces while Christ's kingship is erased. The classrooms where boys are drugged for being energetic, while girls are crowned future leaders for posting TikToks about toxic masculinity. You've been gaslit by a civilization that worships the womb and burns the warrior. but you are not their slave. You are the heir of Leonidas, of Cato, of Beowulf, men who led, protected, and spoke truth to delusion. So stop apologizing for your strength. Stop begging for approval from women who trade you for a chopper on a reality show. Build, create, rule. Let the hysterics scream. Let the priests of wokeness anoint their eunuchs. You are awake, you are armed. And the West will rise again because men like you refuse to die quietly. And now the sponsored book introduction, Insidious Subversion, Satan's Hegelian dialectic siege machinery of cultural Marxist positional war. You wake up, alarm screaming, boss texting, taxes due wife or ex-wife demanding money. Kids you're not allowed to see, student loans you'll never pay off. A world that tells you to calm down, be sensitive, be quiet, while women get promoted for being angry, loud, and entitled. You followed the rules, you got the degree, you kept your head down, you worked weekends. You were loyal, and what did it get you? A pink slip, a paternity test, a divorce decree, and a society that treats you like a disease to be managed, not a man to be respected. I've been there. I've lived it. I've lost. I've won. I've been sued, slandered, and silenced, all for speaking the truth about what's happening to men in the modern world. This book isn't written from a lecture hall. It's written from the trenches, from courtrooms where men are treated like criminals just for existing, from schools where boys are medicated for being energetic, from workplaces where your competence is ignored because you're not a woman or a minority. From homes where fathers are reduced to ATM machines with no rights. I'm not here to cry about it. I'm here to expose it, systematically, ruthlessly. With evidence, logic, and zero tolerance for the lies that have been fed to us for decades. This is not another self-help fluff book telling you to breathe into a paper bag and journal your feelings. This is a field manual for survival in a civilization that has declared war on masculinity and disguised that war as progress. The enemy isn't just feminism. It's a full-spectrum ideological siege, cultural Marxism, critical theory, intersectionality, the empathy cult, the safeguarding bureaucracy, the feminist capture of law and education, all working in concert to dismantle every structure that once protected men's dignity, autonomy, and purpose. They've replaced honor with compliance, strength with shame, responsibility with victimhood. They've pathologized normal male behavior, criminalized fatherhood, and turned marriage into a one-way financial trap where men lose everything and gain nothing. And if you speak up, you're labeled toxic, abusive, privileged, dangerous. This book tears down those labels with facts, history, and evolutionary psychology. It shows you how the Hegelian dialectic has been used to manufacture crisis after crisis, gender, race, climate, not to solve problems, but to justify more control, more taxation, more emasculation. You're not reading this because you're weak. You're reading this because you're awake. And if you're one of the men who's been red-pilled, who sees the matrix of lies, who refuses to kneel, who still believes in merit, strength, truth, and freedom, then this book is for you. It's for the man who's been divorced unfairly, the father locked out of his children's lives, the employee passed over for a promotion because he's a straight white male, the student told his views are harmful, the son raised by a single mother who never taught him how to be a man. This book is for men who are tired of being punished for their biology, their work ethic, their loyalty. It's for men who want to reclaim their agency, their sexuality, their legacy. Inside, you'll learn how restorative justice is used to crush dissent, how schools are turning boys into anxious, obedient husks, how feminism has created a hypergamy crisis that's collapsing birth rates and destroying families, how the cult of environmentalism is just misanthropy with a recycling bin, how stoicism has been replaced with therapy culture, and heroism with victim narratives. How the suffragettes weren't saints, they were radicals who hated men and laid the groundwork for today's genocracy. If you're a woman who believes in gender equality, or a man who still thinks the system is fair, or someone who gets offended by blunt truths, put this book down. Walk away. Go watch a TED Talk. Read a rainbow-colored pamphlet about pronouns. Join a support circle. This book isn't for you. It's not trying to convert you. It's not trying to be inclusive. It's not interested in your feelings. This is a declaration of independence for men who refuse to be slaves in a matriarchal bureaucracy. If you're ready to stop being a cog in the machine, if you're ready to understand the real game being played, and if you're ready to fight back with knowledge, strategy, and unapologetic masculinity, then keep reading. The truth won't set you free unless you're willing to act on it. This book gives you the map. The rest is on you. Insidious Subversion. Satan's Hegelian dialectic siege machinery of cultural Marxist positional war. Written by Conrad Riker. Buy now, links in description.